Did you include your audio, David? But anyways, we're live
Hello.
with Storytime Chit-Chat the 4th.
Woohoo.
Welcome back for all you reoccurring people that I love so dearly.
Woo.
And welcome to everyone else that I adore, because I appreciate everyone. I'm not playing favorites here.
Not at all.
But yeah. But anyways, so welcome back for another Storytime Chit-Chat. Thanks for joining Hippie Ghost and I. If you do end up liking our stream, please be sure to follow me on Twitter and Facebook for updates and fun about my content and stories. Twitch and YouTube for streaming content. Wattpad and Tapas for free story content. And all my handles are at A Hopeful Attempt. And if you want more content and access to the original works, then please become a supporter at my Patreon for $3 a month or more. Pick a tier that works for you. Higher tiers have different benefits, but you'll see that when you go to my Patreon. And you can check the About section of my profile for all my links. Hippie Ghost's handle is, of course, Hippie Ghost, because we like to keep things simple here. Anyway,
yeah,
so tonight we'll be discussing chapters 10 through 14 of When Souls Awaken. And so the reason I post 5 chapters instead of, the normal 3 that I was doing, 2 or 3 a week every other week during December, was because these chapters were really short, but boy does it set up a lot for what's to come. So, we start off with chapter 10, which is called A Destination. So for appearing characters, we see, our girls, Allura, Flora, and Rune. Rune might not be a girl, but who cares? Because
transition goals.
Rune is Rune. Transition goals. Yeah, that works. But anyway, in God Chat, we only see Viserys fucking around, right? So, anyways, the chapter starts off with the girls hearing more rumors about this fire monster. I mean, we all know who that is by now, right? I mean, if you don't, then I'm sorry, but spoiler alert, it's Axis.
Rip.
So all these rumors about the fire monster has poor little Flora getting scared of how people will react to her having her own abilities. And we see that, it's said that, Laura's been running interference for Flora. Like, anytime anyone notices Flora's shadows getting excited or anything, Alora's just like, hey, wow, look at that distraction. Because, Allura is great friend, true mom friend. And it's really nice. So, anyway. So the girls end up stopping for a break. And it's painfully clear that Allura rather just, melt under all of her layers than take off her clothes to, go swimming or anything. And, I wonder why that is. I mean, could she be hiding something? Can you sense tragedy? I don't know. All these questions and more to be answered in the future.
To be fair...
Will our younger viewers get this reference? I'm just kidding. God.
To be fair, I also would like to, just melt under my clothes instead of taking off layers, but I only have a little bit of trauma.
Yeah, you're always a bundle. And I don't know how you don't just die of heat, but I mean, you are basically skin and bones, so...
Well, I also keep all of my dying on the inside.
Hey! Yeah, we go into Helheim, we can walk across that bridge for the dead, we dead inside. If you're wondering why I'm making that reference, go to my Twitch or YouTube to check out the Sayuna Hellblade stream that I did. Sayuna Hellblade. Hellblade Senua's sacrifice. I swear I can talk and I know the things I did. Just kidding. Anyway, so during while the girls are stopped for their little break in this chapter, we have a moment where Flora has run off to play in the river with Allura just chilling out under a tree with Rune. And she has this little moment to herself but with the sloth, because the sloth isn't the sloth doesn't drain her social battery, so she good. But so this is where she reveals she can really feel that the world is changing. And it's obviously bothering her that there are changes occurring. And it's this confession of her being able to feel the world prompts Viserys to be like, hey, this bitch is connected to the world. Maybe I should give her a chance, make her a champion. All the fun stuff. And it's just, we'll see. So her little talk with Rune continues, and she confirms that she knows Axis is a mage. She's like, I know what I saw. And that she's really kind of concerned about the rumors that are starting to swirl about him. And this scene really starts to shed some light on the hollowness that Allura is trying to run from. She feels she's missing something, and it really bothers her. And it's something she keeps questioning throughout the story. She's like, what am I missing? And it's something that, needs to be addressed, and eventually will be. But that's not till the end of the story. Anyways, so the chapter ends with Flora snapping Allura out of her own head, and the two finally decide on a destination after not having one since the two of them got together. Actually, neither of them had destinations really before they met, other than, Allura was just going one direction, Flora was going another, and they had a nice little happy cross paths thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, that leads us into chapter 11, which is called A Darkened Path. So,
yes.
Where do we go other than to our angry boy, Axis? Axis is here. However, we have some livelihood in this god chat for this chapter. We see Vesutio, Ariember, and Mentio.
Ooh.
I think this is the first time these three have appeared
in
the story. Yes. I was pretty sure, but I was like, I don't know. I've been going back and forth in editing that I lose track.
This is their first appearance in the entire story.
Okay. So, in the beginning of this chapter, we have Axis, and he's teetering between becoming a complete psychopath and just being really fucked up, trying to... But, so his current path of insanity and destruction has prompted the god of sight, Vesutio, to turn all of his followers into a breed of mage, so to speak. It's not in the sense that they have, nifty powers where they can, cast things or see into the future, but being the god of sight, he's shared his ability to see souls with them. So he's done this in hopes that they can differentiate between, a normal person and a mage. So that way his followers might have a chance to run away if it's a psychopath mage, such as Axis. But,
Such as Axis. Wait. You gritted your teeth there.
I love Axis, okay? He just needs time to grow.
He needs therapy is what he needs.
Anyway, so another thing we see in this chapter is Axis just straight up... Oh wait, hold on. I'm skipping ahead. But yeah, we do see him blaming people. But before I say that, we're also we see that we see how damaging all of Axis's unresolved anger is, because he's just burning villages. Come on. But to be fair, these villages were persecuting him first. It was in self-defense.
Yes.
But and once again, Larsol swings by to be a dick, but he's actually there to give Axis a low-key warning, except not really low-key. I don't know. I never really understood that shit. No, I do. A little bit. But for him to be aware that the gods are starting to plot against Axis, and by birthing, their own mages. They're creating mages to fight Axis because, he's kind of crazy.
Just a little bit.
And it really reveals how much Axis's actions are adding to the growth of the mage era. Because if he was really chill and, not destructive, there wouldn't be so much pressure on the other gods to try and protect their followers. But anyway, so another thing we see in this chapter is that Axis is blaming Larsolus for everything, because if it wasn't for Larsolus, Axis would simply be dead. There would be no problem for him. He would just be done. He would just be dead. Like, he wouldn't have all this trauma to deal with. It would just be done. He would be with, at that point, he probably would have gone to heaven. At this point, he'll be lucky if he goes to Sanctuary. There's 3 different, possible afterlives you can have in Vismundus.
Your cat's on fire.
Yeah, he is. It's either heaven, hell, or Sanctuary. Sanctuary is the in-between that, people that weren't bad enough for hell or good enough for heaven, they go to Sanctuary, where Asa Rior takes care of them. And it's kind of like a reincarnation almost. But, not quite. But, Anyways. So, it's a nice little middle ground. But, it's with this, this blaming of Larsolus that it prompts his flames to, Axis' flames to erupt with his emotions, because he's getting really fucking pissed off. And it just starts pouring down rain, like torrential rain. And it's because the weather goddess, Erember, is like, calm the fuck down, you twat. But the chapter ends with Erember revealing that she has chosen a champion to slay Axis. Ooh. So Axis is Axis made a fucky wucky, and the gods are coming for him. But it's then that we see our god Mentio there, who is not just a god, but he is the ancient god of knowledge. He's one of the big 4. Not the biggest, fish in the pond, but he is at the top. Mm-hmm. We all know who the biggest fish is. The one that's been gone for 1,000 years. Ooh. But, anyway, so Mentio's...
really wanted to make a joke about, like, one of the gods just being, like, huge. Just, like, literally just massive in size.
I mean, to be fair, Abervis is huge when he wants to be. Like, that's just his... Most of it, yeah, but I mean, you'll see more about his size and stuff, and,
his girth.
His girth, which, will be in the future fan fictions if I ever get a big enough audience, and I will be reading them. So, anyway, we hear Mentio speak up, basically saying the boy just needs therapy. He's like, Axis has a possible path of redemption, but he needs it, his issues to be addressed, because he needs the help, otherwise he will, fall. The phoenix will fall if he does not go to therapy. Anyway, that leads us into chapter 12. Ooh. Wow, we're going right through this, aren't we? Just chugging along. Well, the chapters were really short, but like a lot happens in them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of emotional trauma, and that was something I did struggle with in this story, was trying to balance the trauma out so, like the characters wouldn't snap too early or snap too late or just be completely unrelatable. And I mean, they're all struggling with different issues. The extremes of it to, really show it, but I like to think that each one of them has a little bit of something that's relatable, Yes. Like Flora crushing on someone she doesn't have a chance with, and Alora trying to help people regardless of how she feels about shit, and Axis just being mad because life keeps dealing him shitty hands, and people keep fucking with his shit. But anyway, so, in chapter 12, Rising Tide, the appearing characters consist of Flora, Alora, Rune, our 3 tried and true, and then 2 newbies, Brian and Armel.
Ooh.
So, and then when we look at the god chat, wait, holy shit, there's none. You mean they know how to shut up?
Wow.
I say as if I don't write them. But, so, in this chapter, the girls arrive at the port town. It's been like, I forget what exactly the time frame is between this chapter and when they decided to go there, but it's been a while. It hasn't just been like a couple days. We're talking like weeks, maybe a month. I think it might have been a month. I want to say
Something like that, yeah.
I swear, I might not know as much about my stories when I'm talking about them, but I stay consistent in the writing. I agonize over it because I hate when there's inconsistencies. I'm sure there's one or two here or there because, nobody's perfect, but I really try to make sure that my writings are consistent throughout the story. And this one story is to be connected to 4 other stories. So there's a lot to keep track of. So the girls arrived at a port town, and Alora has been scrimping and saving to be able to buy Flora some treats. But Flora doesn't know about this. It's a nice little surprise. But Flora gets so excited because she's finally at the beach again. She was, she grew up near the ocean. So she's super excited and she runs ahead, and Alora loses track of her. And while Alora is looking for Flora, she runs into one of the newbies, Brian. And she is very quickly aware of his pendant that signifies his worship of Vesutio. So you know what that means. He has the gift of sight. He can see souls. And but he, on the other hand, is quickly aware that she is a pretty girl with a weird ass pet. He's like, what the hell is that? And you're so pretty. He starts sweating. He's like, oh. But, But, even though Alora's attention is mainly on either finding Flora or Brian's god, she is still really quite good at making sure she answers his questions without fail. Because, she's just a good multitasker. I don't know how she does it. I mean, I used to be good at it. Maybe it's the young people.
Maybe.
I say like I'm old.
I know for me, multitasking, the problem is I have ADHD.
Yeah. But, Alora even remembers to introduce herself as she's running off after she spotted Flora. Which, by the way, Rune spotted her and was like, eh. And she's like, oh my god! Well, she didn't say, oh my god, but you know what I mean.
I really appreciate the way that, she's got that kind of semi-understanding. And is my clan fear, doing something?
No, he's just chilling out. He's just standing there, looking around.
I wasn't sure if it was the clan fear or the spider that was making noise just then.
Oh, that's my little spider. It makes noise.
Okay. I just love that the clan fear is still there, even though, I summoned it last time we were here.
Oh, yeah, they don't desummon until you desummon them or something kills them, I believe. But anyway, so, she remembers to introduce herself. But then it all goes like, dun dun dun, because Brian's friend shows up, and his name is Armel, as I mentioned earlier. And we learn that he is Arember's champion, because they talk about how they got to get on their task of killing the fire demon. So, anyone else sense tragedy? Because I do. I sense all the tragedy.
Yeah, this could be a problem.
Nah, they'll be fine. Anyway, so Alora catches back up to Flora, and the chapter ends with Alora bribing Flora to behave for treats.
Isn't that lovely?
Anyway.
That made me almost forget the, possible tragedy that you just mentioned.
I sense tragedy. Which is apparently becoming quite the little joke with
Yes,
my
it
other
is.
friends.
Yes, it
They
is.
they're like, we say that all the time now. I'm like, no, I don't know, because I'm never there. Because I'm always posting stuff. I'm always working on my content. Which, I'm trying, guys. One of these days, maybe I'll have a following and one of you will look back on this video and be like, I'm glad you didn't stop trying. And that's why I'm here. Anyway, so, because I want that future, it's another time. It is time for self-promotion. So, please support Hopeful Attempt on Patreon for $3 a month or more. Choose the tier that works for you. And gain access to the story as it's intended to be read, as well as an invitation to the Discord server where you can submit the questions that we answer at the end of this, as well as, chat with my 3 founding supporters. One of them, which is Hippie Ghost, my co-host. Two of the founding supporters were there when I first started writing when Souls Awaken, and another one is a newer supporter, but he has been very, very supportive. I don't know how many times I was trying to think of a different word other than supportive, but yeah,
It's a word that works.
The three of them have been beams that are not cracked.
Yes.
There's a whole beam thing going on in the story. There's like fissures in the beam. There's like several chapters with the name Beam in it, or two of them. But yeah, so give us a follow on follow Hopeful Attempt on Twitter and Facebook for updates about content and whatnot, as well as some fun bullshit, because on my Twitter I'll post like my pets and whatnot, and random thoughts that I think is funny, because I think I'm funny.
You are funny.
But yeah. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Anyways, and because I'm not the only one that's looking to make a following, my co-host here is also trying to make a following, and his handle for Facebook is Hippie Ghost, as well as Twitter. If you go to my page, you'll see that I post this stuff and whatnot. So.
And I greatly appreciate it. It means a lot.
Yeah. No problem. He does the same for me. We're always spamming each other's shit. We're trying, man. We are trying. But he also has a Patreon, and it'd be great if you could support him as well. Or, either way. We really appreciate any support. And if support even counts if you're just liking or viewing videos, anything like that, because I do upload these all to YouTube. I try to keep, my stuff all over the place. So hopefully someone will notice. You guys, I feel like everyone out there right now is senpai.
I knew you were going to say that.
I'm just sitting here going, senpai, notice me.
As soon as you said notice me, I'm like, she's gonna say everybody is senpai. I just know it.
Everybody is senpai, David.
Oh no, were we starting with the David thing?
See, Dave gets really thrown off sometimes when I just start repeating his name, like David. He can't help but laugh. Anyway, so welcome to our insanity. I think I'm just, we spent all day yesterday streaming Inspiring Whispers, so give that a check, especially if you like Norse mythology and stuff like that, because Hellblade does an amazing job on the lore and has a great story about Senua, who goes into Helheim to retrieve her dead lover's soul. And it is such a beautiful game, and the gameplay is fantastic. I really recommend it. And if you don't want to play it, then you can watch me play it, and you can watch me scream as one of the things kill me. I don't know if I really screamed, but I did jump when my cat started to open my door. So that's on the stream. It's in one of the videos. Anyway,
yeah, that was pretty funny.
So on to chapter 13 as I bury those memories. Chapter 13 was called Wavering.
The shovels.
Stop! I don't need any more shovels. Anyway, our appearing character in chapter 13 is once again our lovely Axis, because I love my fire boy. I do. But in the god chat we have Larsolus, Sanakuro, and Viserys. All gods we've seen before. So it starts out with the rain following Axis, and that's because he hates it, and Arembar knows that, and she hates him. So so she just keeps fucking with him, and plus she wants to make sure he doesn't burn down anywhere else by accident, because he spontaneously combusts when he's angry. And we see that Axis is being haunted by his trauma, but a memory of Alora calms him. Despite her words being harsh in the memory at the beginning, they still managed to start calming him, because her harshness was towards his unnecessary aggression. It wasn't like other times where people called him a monster just for defending himself. She does it because he was being a dick. And she doesn't continue it after the thing stops. It's just like, okay, that's it. And she, she's a pretty good
harsh,
person.
But fair.
Yeah, exactly. So then we see the reason he calms her so much. It's not that she's just a pretty girl that noticed him. It's because she noticed his pain. And she showed him the same courtesy that she would a wounded animal that had a chance to survive. I mean, because I mean, Allura would put an animal out of its misery if it had no chance. But, sorry. But, you know, Allura sees redemption and she's not going to stomp it out, you know? Anyway, so lastly, we see that his biggest regret that he has at this point in the story was not returning her courtesy. He really wishes he introduced himself, and he really regrets not making some sort of connection with her. And once again, it's not because she's pretty, it's not because he was like, oh my god, because, you know, there's actually a decent age gap at this point that would be, you know, that should influence, you know, how they act towards each other. But, it's really, he just regrets not taking the chance to actually have a relationship with someone, like a healthy relationship, because he's like, there was a chance there to, you know, have a friend. And he has done. So the chapter is rounded off with the input of the two gods that have been most interactive with Allura, Sanakuro and Viserys. Both Sanakuro and Viserys are, they believe having to support Axis would possibly break Allura, because they can already pick up on the fact that she is struggling quite a bit. And I mean, it's extremely obvious to the reader, but like if you think of how the gods see them, it's kind of hazy. It's not like they have a perfect view into their lives. It's kind of hazy, and it works when they focus on them. So they just know what they've seen. And Sanakaro and Viserys have both met Allura physically. However, you know, Allura was, you know, having a fevered dream when she met Viserys, so she doesn't really remember it all too well. Meanwhile, Larsolus is just annoyed as shit that they know more of Allura than he does. But at least he's got her name now. I mean, that's progress, right? Larsolus also does not appreciate that the two gods are speaking, like, with metaphorical type of sentences, like, you know, the beam of one will break or whatever. He's really not appreciating that. He's like, this is bullshit. And the chapter ends.
Someone just talk like a normal person.
Yeah. So the chapter ends with, you know, the sound of thunder that is actually the gods laughing at Larsolus. And it makes Axis jump before he continues his aimless path, which I like that little touch there.
That is pretty funny.
Yeah. Anyway, I see that we're up to like 3 viewers, so hey, love you guys. Just wanted to say that. Thank you. So chapter 14, Rumors in the Ashes. Our appearing characters are, you know, ones we've seen before. We see Allura, we see Rune, we see Brian again, and we see Armel again, and we see Flora, and I want to stab Armel, but, you know, not yet. So
not yet.
And then in the God
maybe
chat,
later.
we see
A little bit.
Maybe later. A little
as
stabbing
a
as a treat.
Mild
so in the
stabbing.
God chat, we see Noxra. We haven't seen that bitch for a while, so, you know, hey, welcome back. Anyway, so Allura in the start of the chapter is just chilling out in the tavern. It's late, and she's chilling with a glass of water because she's not trying to spend any money. She's already spent enough. She's frugal. She's struggling, you know, she's saved quite a bit to be able to afford that room and whatnot. But Allura is really just trying to have a moment to herself and Rune here. It's during this time that she's taken a moment to question the gods about what they're doing. Not that she's questioning them directly, she's just like, what the hell are they doing? She's talking to herself, you know. And she seems rather bothered by the change in the world that she's sensing, like I mentioned earlier. But she's at a complete loss about it. She really has no idea why she feels like something is missing. And that's what really bothers her there. And Allura's thinking time here is interrupted by Brian and Armel reappearing. And after a bit of, you know, awkward introductions and unintended insults, and Armel's complete disinterest in being there at all, an issue arises. Because Brian starts boasting about their quest that Erember, Armel's goddess, bestowed upon them to take down the fire demon, and it's revealed that Armel was made a mage by Erember. So Al questions if Armel is worried about being made out to be a demon for being a mage, but his cocky arrogance is like, fuck no, I haven't killed anyone. He thinks that just because he hasn't done wrong, he won't be painted a target because he's a mage. It helps to speak to that naivety. Um, and then, he goes on calling the fire demon a monster and stuff, and she for burning down villages, and she gets super defensive over the branding of, over this branding. And Alora presses the issue that circumstances are never black and white, and sometimes people really just don't have a choice. And that's what triggers her flashback, where it's implied that she has killed someone in self-defense before. And this has got to be, it's pretty traumatic, because she's only 12 still in this scene. Like, she is still really young, and she has had to take a life to save her own, is what's implied. And, Armel instantly takes her willingness to give the target the benefit of the doubt as an acceptance or an approval of the lives he has taken and the actions he's done. So he's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And she starts to lose her composure. She gets really pissed, and she starts doing the angry cry, and she has yet to cry throughout this whole entire story until this point. And so she starts to leave because she knows she's losing her composure, and she has such a high level of maturity for her age, and she's just like, no, I can't, I gotta walk away. And Armel has the full intentions of stopping her, to keep yelling at her about this, and possibly maybe even attack her if it escalated high enough. But the darkness trips him, giving Al the chance to retreat to a room where Flora is waiting. And Alora's like, what are you doing awake? And she's just like, I heard crying. And so just before the chapter ends, Flora reveals her interference. She's like, I tripped the guy. And she also reveals the discovery of a new ability that allows her to listen through the shadows. She has to really focus on it, but she can hear things through the shadows as whispers. And because there are things in the darkness you cannot see, and Usko, being the guardian of hell, has control over the darkness. So she's got some really... Flora is okay, so Flora has an extremely high potential to be extremely overpowered. But we'll see if she ever really unlocks that. But, so we see that Flora is really kind of upset by the idea of Alora getting upset, because this is the first time she's seen Alora come close to losing her composure or anything like it. Flora's never seen Alora so much shed a tear. And the chapter is ended when with Naxara giving Flora praise. Well, Usko praise, but one for the other, they both get praise, basically. And because she's like, she's seeing that Flora is learning how to use the abilities rather, quickly. So, all in all, these 5 chapters were really short, but they were full of important bits that really set up one of the first major incidences of the story, like the first trauma bit that wasn't from the past. It'll be the first fresh trauma, really, other than, I guess, the bear trap. I guess that could have been traumatic.
Yeah, a little bit.
Maybe Flora's afraid of bear traps now. I don't know.
With a little phobia of it.
Yeah, right? Anyways, so that concludes the discussion for the 5 chapters that I released on whenever that was. Not last Friday, the Friday before. Because I try to make sure, people have like a week or so to read before I do these discussions, because I don't want to spoil it, Because as we get further down the road, there's going to be really big spoilers discussed, and, it'll be... And I'm hoping each discussion becomes more in depth, because I won't have to worry as much about spoilers, so. Because I'll do my best not to, spoil any future things, but hopefully by now you've read up to chapter 14, and, chapter 15 was added for free to stick with my, my new, month plan of, posting every Friday, and posting at least 1 chapter every Friday instead of 2 or 3 every other Friday. Anyways, so on to the questions we go.
All right. So, first question that we have what is Alora's motivation for traveling?
Okay, so Alora has an incessant need to keep moving out of the fear of her past catching up to her, but that's not to say that her past is even chasing after her. She can't stop moving. It's not in her to be still.
Okay. Why did Kuro let the girls leave despite being so young?
So, Kuro being, Sano Kuro, the god of healing, he doesn't feel it's his responsibility to go any further. And he is simply there to play his role as a healer. He does not believe he does not believe in interfering heavily in mortal lives beyond, the prayers that are directed at him. And at this point, neither Alora nor Flora have prayed to him, but he still helped them out despite that. And neither one follow him. There you go.
Alright. Why is Alora so defensive of someone she barely knows?
It's because she's projecting her own experiences onto Axis, and she has been on the side of doing something bad, so to speak, for the right reasons, and no one gave her the benefit of the doubt when it occurred. As you saw in the flashback, it's implied that she had to kill someone in self-defense, and her father just instantly snaps at her for it. There's no support there in that memory.
Alright. So, why does Arember hate Axis so much?
So, Arember is a creature of balance, so to speak, and Axis is upsetting the balance by blatantly abusing his power to fuel his anger, and he is hurting the world. As the goddess of weather, Arember plays a large part in keeping the world, like, keeping it in balance, keeping it healthy and all that. So, like Viserys, she is rather offended by those that would destroy nature, but unlike Viserys, who is calm, she has the chaos of storms as part of her personality.
Very good. Alright. Are there any mythical weapons or items left behind by previous ages?
So with the way that Abervis resets the world, many would be lost to it, but it's been a long while since the last time he reset the world, because, he's been, they mentioned he was gone for about, no one's heard anything from him for, at least 1,000 years. So we know it's been longer than that since the last time he reset the world. And so there's probably, weapons and stuff given the amount of time that the world would exist since the last reset. But they don't really make an appearance in the story. If anything, this story births them more so because there's a god named Ignis Furrow, and he is the god of the forge. He doesn't have a big part in the story, story-wise. One of his followers does show up in the near future. But his mages, the mages he ends up creating, are known as mage smiths in the world, and they can imbue their creations with magic or use their mage smith ability to actually change certain properties of the materials, which we'll see later on in the story as well.
Alright, and that looks like it's all the questions that we have this time. Nice and short but sweet.
Yeah. So now is our little proportion of Dave time for Hippie Ghost, because he's been a huge supporter of Hopeful Attempt, and he's helped me become the writer I am today. And he's shared a lot of his own experience and knowledge with me, and he is also trying to promote his own content and get out there and make money on it. So today, for his time, we're going to look a little bit more at his world building. So we're going to talk about some of his races. Besides humans, he has, Undarians and Harpies.
Yep.
So,
and I also have goblins as well. So first we'll start out with the ones that people generally know from other forms of media, so goblins and harpies. So in my story, these creatures are not monsters. They're not inherently evil like they would be in other works. In fact, both species actually deal with a lot of unnecessary hate and bigotry because they are viewed that way, and a lot of the views that would come from different RPGs and stuff from harpies and goblins are actually considered stereotypes. I'm going to start off with goblins. They're actually more of a proud people. They work hard, and while they are still sort of a material race per se, it's not out of greed. It's more of just a they have a fondness for hard work and for creation, and they very heavily believe that hard work is what plays a vital role in your development as a person. So, in fact, there's actually a those people who interact with goblins a lot know that they'll actually get offended if you try to give them something for free, because they feel like they didn't earn it. Next are...
I love one of your goblin characters, Femi. She's so great.
Oh, yes. Yes, she is wonderful. And in my most recent story, the one that was posted on Wattpad and Tapas this past week, which is called Finding Work, a goblin appears by the name of Glunk, who he likes to create explosives, and he is very good at it. He loves his explosives, but he is a wisecracking goblin. He's got a very sly sense of humor that is, quick-witted, and he loves to make things go boom. But he is also smart. He will, he doesn't have any misconceptions about the world. He will straight up tell you that, hey, look, these people aren't going to accept our kind no matter what we do. We need to build a world where we are accepted instead of hoping that other people will accept us. And that's going to be a very central theme for, especially for the crew of the Tempest, and it's a central theme for the story Finding Work, which I won't necessarily spoil anything, but it's about a brother and a sister who face some hardships as they are trying to make a name for themselves in the city of Dravensport. That is on my Tapas and my Wattpad for free.
At Hippie Ghost?
It's also at Hippie Ghost. It is also on my Patreon. My next story, The Shopkeeper, is also on my Patreon, as well as a sampling of the Ephwanian writing font that I use for my sigil work. All of the sigils that you'll see as part of my stories are real sigils that have magic imbued within them because I'm into the occult, so that's fun. So next we come to harpies. Harpies are, as most people would imagine, they are bird-like beings, but they have a human face and torso, but they have bird-like wings and legs. They don't have normal hands, but their wings do have like a sort of a thumb-like appendage on them to keep...
Like a bat.
To make it so that they, yeah, like a bat, which allows them to be able to at least grip things, sort of. There are actually specialized tools made for harpies so that way they can do basic things like, eating with a fork and a knife or a spoon. But for the most part, they tend to get used to using their talons as well. So the harpies are more of a solitary race, generally. This is in big part because humans tend not to accept them and the other races don't. They tend to be viewed as evil by the knights and by a lot of the humans of the more, I want to say, unwelcoming communities, the more bigoted communities. But once you get to know them, it's kind of like breaking through a shell and finding just this softness underneath. My one harpy, Calandra, is a great example of that. So she actually is different from most harpies. She doesn't have that shell. She wants to be friends with anyone, and she's not normal in that regard.
She is such a cinnamon bun.
She is a cinnamon bun. No, go ahead. In fact, I would actually love for you to have it.
So, in one of our past streams, we mentioned that the Crimson Tempest in Dave's story has, a battle song and other songs, but like Calandra is the one who sings the songs, and she is just yes. I just love those parts in the story.
And she is known for having she's known for having a very heavenly voice too. That she is a very kind, caring, wonderful person. And the other harpy that's aboard the Crimson Tempest, whose name is Crow, is also a warm person on the inside, but on the outside, not so much. He has that shell built up.
He angry.
Yes, and he is a very much. I mean, he's practically a tsundere of a person.
Yeah,
He,
he is.
he's very much like, don't talk to me, get away from me. I don't like to be around you. And if he is nice to someone, it's more of that. It's not like I like you or anything type of thing. He's great with that.
He has
But
a
once
weakness for
you get
people who call him by his real name rather than, his nickname, which is Crow.
that's right, and that real name will be revealed during one of his appearances.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, he has a softness of that. Most people refer to him as Crow. The reason is because he built a nest in the crow's nest, and he is the person that watches over the crow's nest. So they call him Crow. It has nothing to do with the fact that he is a bird that also looks like a crow because he's got the black feathers and the wings and everything. He's the guy in the crow's nest, so they call him Crow. And he hates it because it's an unintentional pun, and people just stuck with it.
So, with your harpies and all, one of the things I find really interesting is that they can crossbreed, right?
Yes,
With
so
Undarians, right?
yes, they can also crossbreed with humans.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much all of the Undarians and the harpies can crossbreed with humans. The goblins cannot. They're just they're just too small, unfortunately.
So you have
And
a Undarian harpy character that's basically a penguin, right?
yes, she is.
I
So
love her.
yes, before we get to her, I want to talk a little bit about what the Undarians are. So they are a sea folk race, but there's two different breeds of them. There's the freshwater and the saltwater Undarians. The saltwater Undarian, I mean, both have more of a kind of a rounded head shape that it's they've got this kind of like salamander-like skin that's
Think a
very
turtle.
smooth. Like yeah, just think kind of like a turtle almost.
Turtle with salamander skin.
Yeah. Now they don't have like a hard shell on their back or anything like that, but they do have at least this. Well, this is where the differences come in. So the saltwater ones, their arms are replaced more like with a flipper, kind of like a sea turtle's limb, like their front flippers, but their hands are kind of like on the inside of that, so that way they can still like grab and manipulate things, but it gives them that extra push when they're in the seawater because they're usually swimming for very long distances. So they can walk on land. They have their feet tend to be more flat and rounded, and they have this kind of like crab-like shell, like carapace on the bottom of them. This way that they can walk across, the sea floor, whether it's on coral or on like anything that could be like sharp and stuff. They don't have to worry about wearing shoes and stuff because the bottoms of their feet are hard enough. They don't have to worry about it. The only downside is that it makes them much slower on land. They also just have kind of like these little tendrils that go over their faces.
Yeah, kind of like hair,
the
except not thin like hair. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
but
kinda
it's only like
thick.
a couple.
Are they like
Yeah, they're thick.
fleshy?
They're fleshy, and it's just like two that come over their face, and then a
It's
couple
like
that come down
loaded
their
with
back.
sensories, right? Sensors.
Yes.
It's a
This is
sensory
different
organ.
Yes, exactly. And the freshwater Andarians, they're different in that they're more human-like, with like more human-like feet and hands and stuff, because they tend to spend more of their time wading in the water or, crawling in like the shallows of the rivers and stuff like that. And, more of like underwater tunneling and stuff, or in lakes, because, it's a lot less water to deal with, but they are an aquatic species. Their hair is more hair-like. It's still the same effect, though, of that tendrilness, but it's thinner and it is more sensory. And really, that's the main differences between them. Now, Gull is one of my sea Darians. He was a much larger one. I kind of gave him. He is a big boy. Yes, he is. I kind of gave him like a sort of a sharky personality. He is very he's a very beefy character, and he's very forward about a lot of things. he has no problem getting into fights or anything like that, but he's a very excitable character, which is something that's really fun. He loves to boast. The thing he loves to boast about the most is his husband, Nettie. And the story between how he and Nettie met was that Nettie saw Gaul for the first time and went, "Oh, please step on me," and then Gaul did.
They're such a cute little couple. I love the
Yes,
two
they
of
are.
them.
Yes. Now, Sira Tidori, is an Undarian Harpy hybrid. So when Undarians and Harpies interbreed, there's a small chance that they become just a Harpy, a small chance that they become a normal Undarian, and then there's a chance that they be what's called a hybrid between the two, where it's more of like a penguin-esque type of thing. Like they've got their skin has the they appear like an Undarian, but their skin has the little tiny feathers that kind of cover the whole thing like a penguin's feathers would. Makes them very adaptable for cold. They can't necessarily fly, but they can glide a bit. And Sira is an especially just adorable one because she's the ship's doctor on the Crimson Tempest, and she is very sweet. I feel like, Amanda, you probably have a lot that you would like to say about Sira since you brought her up.
Oh, well, I adore her, and I just feel so bad for her because, of certain things. I'm not trying to spoil anything, but, there's someone she's wanting after, and it's just not the right situation for what she wants.
Yep,
And
and
she's just a nervous little cinnamon bun, and I adore her.
and they're not
Well, she's
even
not
aware
nervous,
of it.
but yeah, she's not really a nervous person, so to speak. She's a pretty confident doctor, and but she is not the type that gets mad at you. She gets disappointed.
Yes, and she just melts all of the ship members.
Mm-hmm.
So those are my Darian and Harpies and my goblins, and all three races. I think actually, no, I don't think any Harpies appear in Finding Work, but there will be Harpies appearing in one of my stories coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll get to see a little bit about them. But you will see the Undarians and you will see the Goblins if you read Finding Work. And I will be planning to expand on them in further stories down the line.
Yes. All right. So, as I mentioned earlier, we were streaming all day yesterday, and we were just doing a promotion of my story Never in Silence while I streamed a playthrough of Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, because that game heavily inspired Never in Silence, and I really suggest checking it out. It's on my Tapas and my Wattpad for free, and the original formatting, is available to my patrons. $3 a month or more. Pick your tier that works for you. All that jazz. But but the story is a tragedy, and it has no happy ending. It's a rather intense story too throughout, because she's just trying to survive, and she's being hunted down, and she's just trying to complete a wall that so she can just wall herself off from the world. She's already given up on the world. She's gone to one of the harshest climates to live in, and she's just going to live on this awesome mountain. With the way it's spelled, it's not awesome with an A, but it means basically Bone Mountain, because it got its name for always being covered in snow, so it's white like bones, and no one ever survives there, pretty much. But there's enough there to sustain her, but she's learned her survival mostly through trial and error, some from a bit of her past, but that bit falls into tragedy as well. And really her story is the origin story to the villain in the story that I'm working on that's supposed to come after that one. So that's one of my little pet projects I have going on as well. And I believe that one is the one that follows that is going to be called Life Among Death, but it's a working title, so anything I say may not be the same when it finally comes around. But it's yeah, so I really just wanted to write a story where you had a person, who was and is an inherently good person and tries so hard and everything just keeps failing and fucking up, that, in the end they just go, fine, you've broken me, I will become what you keep saying I am. And she actually does, end up saying, if you think I'm the rot, then I will become the rot of existence, because she's a necromancer and her world just is a taboo necromancy, despite the fact that magic is inherent and your line of magic is inherent in that world. It's just, yeah, people ain't gonna accept you. So she's being hunted down and outcasted whenever people do find out. So, I mean, if you want to be sad, no, I'm just kidding. If you want to read an intense, thrilling story, I feel like Never in Silence is a really good one to read.
Oh god, yeah.
But yeah, so it's, the format of it's changed because Tapas and Wattpad are both very limited in what you can do with the formatting. Tapas more limiting than Wattpad, but, either way. So that pretty much sums up our stream for tonight. But before we go, if you like the stream, please be sure to follow me on here and as well as YouTube, so that way if you do miss a stream or you want to check out past ones, you can find them all on my YouTube. It's all at Hopeful Attempt. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook for content announcements, Meme Mondays, and the daily posts. I do a post every day for both Twitter and Facebook, and I try to keep them, they'll probably have at least one post in common, but Twitter gets a bit more attention because, I don't know, I just spam on there sometimes. But it's all at Hopeful Attempt. If you want access to my free content for my stories, that's Wattpad and Tapas, both at Hopeful Attempt. But yeah, so I'll be, sometimes my daily post is artwork from my stories and whatnot, but I'd really appreciate if I could gain more supporters on Patreon so I can afford to keep working on this content the way I am. And if you're not able to do that, I would really just appreciate the like and the shares and, a comment here or there. I reply to all my comments, so, and I'm just like scared of the day if I ever get to a point where I don't have enough time to reply to all my comments, because I really just like, I like everyone. At worst, you'll just get a like, but I appreciate everyone who's been following along, liking and sharing my stuff and whatnot. So, anyways, my co-host Hippie Ghost, as know if you've been watching the stream, is also promoting his content through these streams and whatnot. And so be sure to follow him on Facebook and Twitter as well. You can find him through my page if you're struggling finding his. But because my links are in the about part of my channel. But for him, he's going to do Sigil Sundays, right?
Yes, where I use a Phoenian font to create a sigil that would actually be a real sigil that it could be used for spellcraft. And if I get enough followers on my Patreon, then one of my projects will actually be kind of doing a show through of how I create a sigil. It might be in the form of a video, it might be in the form of just a text guide, or I might do both, because I know some people like videos better than text guides and vice versa. The other thing too is, since we're talking about little bits of promotions, anyone that signs up for either my Patreon or Amanda's Patreon, Hopeful Attempt, will end up getting an Oracle dice reading from me. I am currently actually working on Amanda's Oracle dice reading, which so far is mostly just calling her out on things, which is just fantastic. So that is mostly what these dice do. I ask a question and then the dice says, yeah, about that. So this is what you actually need to know about, and this is what we're going to talk to you about. Yeah.
So thank you for coming and checking out the stream. We really appreciate the views. Be sure to find us on, Twitter and Facebook and all that fun jazz so you can keep up with us. Because we would love to have a community for our writings. Because really, I just want someone to not look at me like I have 10 heads when I'm saying, oh my god, but Axis is so angry. I'm so concerned about him. I mean, I'm sure you guys will, because it's like, what do you mean? You're the one that writes what he does. But you guys don't understand. They write themselves. But anyways, that's a whole nother story. Anyways,
Characters write themselves all the time.
I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for watching the videos, supporting in any way you can. It really means the world to me. But it's time for us to hang up. Good night, guys.
All right.